Good afternoon. It's so great to be home back in Georgia and see all of you here today. Well, I want to tell you something. When I first came to speak to the GRA, it was a very different message that I had. I was running for Congress on conservative principles, ideas like that we should have a balanced budget, that we should be reducing our national debt, conservative principles like protecting the unborn, protecting our Second Amendment, securing our border, and continuing to help achieve President Trump's agenda with America First policies. That was my first platform. Well, I have to tell you, things are a lot different now. Now that I'm a member of Congress and our country has changed, and the reason why our country has changed is because we have a different administration in charge, and we have a different party with majority control. Now let's talk about where we are today. Now we are a nation with over $30 trillion in debt. That is a sum that none of us can comprehend, imagine, and that we will never see paid off in our lifetime. There's also bigger problems. We're a country that no longer has a border, and we have serious problems ahead. I want you to know what happened in Washington, D.C. this week. I just got back, by the way, flew in last night, but after this week, the Biden administration has decided to suspend Title 42. Title 42 was the measure that President Trump's administration put in place that would hold out illegal aliens from entering our country because of the COVID-19 pandemic. But I want you to know that Biden is about to completely suspend Title 42, and that will bring an illegal invasion into our country that is unprecedented. This will create a national security crisis, but not just a national security crisis, it's going to create a national emergency. We are a nation in trouble. Now, right now, there have been 1 million border encounters in the last 6 months. Here's what I want you to understand. The numbers they are projecting are 18,000 people a day illegally entering our country. At 18,000 a day, if you just take the 5 months starting in May, going through the summer, where there will be the highest amount of people making the journey to cross over our southern border, we are looking at approximately 2.7 million people entering our country at the southern border. And do you think Secretary Mayorkas will stop it? No. Do you think Joe Biden is going to do anything about it?
No.
No. Do you think Kamala Harris, our border czar, is going to go to the southern border and tell people to turn around and go back? Absolutely not. They're going to welcome them in, and then they are going to disappear in our country. And do you know how it's going to happen? You're going to be paying for it. You're going to be paying for their bus that takes them to the interior of our country. You're going to be paying for the airplane ticket that puts them on an airplane and flies them by the dark of night to some city, possibly close to where we live. You are going to be paying for all of their food and their health care and where they live. Our nation will be taking them in illegally, against our laws, against everything that we're set up for. We will no longer be a sovereign nation because we no longer have a border under the Biden administration. And I want to tell you, for this reason, I have already entered articles of impeachment on Joe Biden. Joe Biden, as the President of the United States, is failing every single one of us. The President swears an oath to defend our Constitution and uphold our laws. If he cannot uphold our laws at our border, he is not defending our Constitution, and he's putting every single one of us and our security at risk. I want you to know that deadly fentanyl that's coming from China and being brought into the narco state of Mexico through the cartels is funneling by the masses across our border. Fentanyl is now the #1 cause of death with young people from 18 to 45. Number one cause of death, not COVID-19. Not COVID-19. That all of these young people have suffered under our government over-abuse, government COVID tyranny, and government suppression because of a man-made virus from a lab in Wuhan, China, that we know our tax dollars likely funded. This is an outrage. Every single American should be furious of what they have done to our country. Now, these 18 to 45-year-olds, the ones that were graduating from high school, that had their graduations canceled, their proms canceled, they got fired from their jobs. I have 3 children. 2 of my kids lost their jobs when everything shut down because they couldn't keep them. They were, young people, part-time jobs, lost their jobs. Now that generation is trying to recover, but now we are recovering into an economic crisis with out-of-control inflation, out-of-control gas prices, that, by the way, none of that is going to get better. Here, let me explain the problems that I see ahead with our economy. Now, while Joe Biden is talking about, he wants regime change in Russia, he's interested in war in Ukraine, and while we are praying daily for the Ukrainian people and their suffering and what they're going through, we are looking at worldwide famines. We are looking at food shortages like we've never seen before. We are looking at the rising cost of food to be unaffordable, to where they're going to be telling us that we should be switching over to Bill Gates' fake meat patties. No thank you, I'd like to have a steak. Or a hamburger, or chicken, or hot dog, or whatever I want, because we're Americans, right? We shouldn't be dealing with this. No thank you, I don't want to eat insects like they talk about. None of that sounds appealing to me. As a matter of fact, I would tell my little kids when they were little, gross, spit that out. But we do have real problems ahead, and here's what's happening. So Joe Biden has announced that he is going to be releasing 1 million barrels of oil a day, all the way through the end of the year. Guess from where? Our reserves. Our reserves. Now, who filled up those reserves? President Trump, exactly. Here's a great story. I remember Mark Meadows has told it several times really well, and I've enjoyed hearing it from President Trump. Do you remember when the price of oil went down to 0? Do you remember that? President Trump bought up as much oil as he possibly could. And Mark Meadows told him, "Sir, we don't have anywhere to put it." President Trump said, "I don't care. We'll fill up people's bathtubs. Buy as much as you can get." Right? Because he's a businessman. And when the price goes to 0 and below, what do? Buy. Now another thing President Trump did that was fantastic and it was amazing is he made America energy independent again. God bless him for that. And that's exactly what we should be doing right now. We should be doing drill, baby, drill. We should be drilling for oil. America should drill for so much oil that we drive the price of oil down. Do you want to know how you control your enemies? You take power away from Russia and China and Venezuela and the Middle East. You take power away from them when we produce so much oil that we drive the global price of oil down. What do you think that does to those dictators? That takes money out of their pockets. But we don't have any common sense in the White House, ladies and gentlemen. As a matter of fact, there's not any sense at all. We don't know what's happening up there with Joe Biden. So Joe Biden's plan is this. He's going to be releasing 1 million barrels of oil a day. 1 million a day through the year. That is going to deplete our reserves by almost half. But he has another plan. Yeah. I know all of you attend the climate church of whatever, right? I'm sure you all are climate worshipers. Well, the folks in Washington that are addicted to this disgusting science, because, I mean, clearly, looking back on the Ice Age, we know that people back then paid a lot of taxes to melt that ice, right? Clearly, duh. I sound like AOC. So, they have a great plan. You ready for it? Well, we obviously have to switch to green energy. I mean, come on, everyone knows that windmills and solar panels will produce so much electricity to be able to charge all of our electric vehicles that they want you all to drive. Does that sound like a good plan? Because it's always sunny here in Georgia, right? Yeah, and the wind is constantly blowing. I mean, we get those breezes all day long to turn wind turbines. That makes a lot of sense, doesn't it? Well, that's their plan. That's their plan, and here's how it's going to look. They have a plan. Joe Biden just started talking about it this week. Is he wants to use the Emergency Production Act. He wants to use this emergency power to be able to mine for rare earth minerals and build electric vehicle batteries. Now, to understand this is a power given to the government back in World War I and World War II, when we were at war and we had to use private industry to produce weapons. President Trump used the same powers, or enacted them, when COVID-19 came, to be able to produce necessary, very much needed medical supplies. These are emergency things. Joe Biden is getting ready to enact this, like I said, to mine for rare earth minerals and build electric vehicle batteries. You know what Democrats do really well? They are so good at using the government and using your money, your hard-earned tax dollars, to create businesses that benefit or invest in businesses, existing businesses, that benefit them and their friends and their family members. So here's how it's going to work. The Green New Deal, you know AOC, she's that smart girl from New York, you know who I'm talking about? Very successful young lady. She was a bartender before she became a member of Congress. Okay, so this is AOC's plan, the Green New Deal, is to completely get off of oil, because obviously it's evil, and switch over to green energy, switch to energy that produces as little carbon as possible. Because, I mean, plants don't need carbon, right? No. So they have to get rid of all this stuff. And the plan is for all Americans to be driving electric vehicles by 2035. That's the plan. And Joe Biden, you know, the Democrats are really good at this, right? They love crisis after crisis after crisis after crisis. So the gas prices this is the new crisis. The war in Russia and Ukraine, they're going to use that as the cause and the reason, because Putin is evil Russia. Oh, he's going to blame that and say this is why our gas prices have gone up. So now everyone has to pay for rare earth mineral mining and to build electric vehicle batteries. And then he's going to tell all Americans, because gas prices are so high, and because we have to save our earth, and because of climate change, everyone, we're offering you tax credits so that you can buy your electric vehicle and you can switch over. That's the plan. That's the plan that they're going to be selling for America, and this is how it's going to make it more affordable for Americans to drive. Is this what all of you want?
No!
Thank you. I keep telling them that in Washington, and they don't like me very much. Thank you. I go and I explain to them, this is the stupidest idea I've ever heard of. And I've heard a lot of dumb ideas, but this one's really bad. Here's why. We should be investing in our energy for America and for America's future. You see, I've been in the construction business my entire life. And whenever we build something, we build a foundation first before we put the walls up. Then we keep building them. But they don't understand that. They're ready to put up walls and put up a roof with no foundation. If there's a change in how Americans use energy, you have to build a foundation. And right now we have a crumbling one. We're not energy independent. We are dependent, which is a problem. We are a growing population, and clearly growing more than we want because they're going to allow an illegal invasion at the border. We should be investing in drilling oil and natural gas. We should be building the Keystone Pipeline. We should be building new nuclear plants to create more power. We should be investing in creating more energy, not preparing to move into other types of green energy, like windmills and wind turbines and offshore wind turbines and solar panels, because these are inefficient, completely inefficient. Anybody can think about California and rolling blackouts. Anybody can think about Texas and frozen windmills. We can all think about these things, and I don't know about y'all, but I've lived in Georgia my entire life, and the summertime is hot. I like my air conditioning, and it uses electricity. And I also get cold in the winter, and I love the heat, and I love to turn it on. And then we've got spring and fall, and hey, look, here's a real deal. We might run the heat in the nighttime and run the air conditioning in the daytime. And because I am a free American woman, I want the ability to do that, even if I have to pay a higher power bill. I don't want the government making stupid decisions that take away my freedom. Does that make sense? Okay, it doesn't make sense to them in Washington, D.C. As a matter of fact, they're telling Americans, you're gonna have to be prepared to suffer a little bit. Yeah, that's what they're telling us. Because they have bigger plans. They don't want America to be energy independent. They want us to be dependent. Here's the problem. China dominates the rare earth mineral mining and electric vehicle battery production by over 85% in the global market. America is at less than 5%, ladies and gentlemen. Less than 5%. This is why Joe Biden has decided that we have got to mine for rare earth minerals and build electric vehicle batteries. But it's a foolish, foolish move. Because here's what should be happening. How the economy in the United States has always worked and how it should continue to work is the simple principles of supply and demand. We don't have people lining up out the door and down the street to buy electric vehicles. That would be an increase in demand, which would cause a need to increase supply. They're doing it backwards. They're trying to use the government laws, policies, and energy to change it, to force you. And that's what happens in communist countries. See, when they combine corporations, large corporations like the big three auto manufacturers, and they combine that with plans with the government, and they are combining it with how we use energy, that is called corporate communism. And that is going to force you to have to demand an electric vehicle. That's wrong. That is completely inconsistent with how our economy has always worked. But these are the things we're talking about in Washington. Like I said, very different from the very reasons I ran. Now let me tell you about some other things that happen in Washington. I don't know if you've heard this story or not, but I was kicked off of committees when I first got to Congress. Well, there's a little something I did that upset everybody. On January 20th, 2021, I introduced articles of impeachment on Joe Biden because he is compromised because of his son, Hunter Biden, and his abuse of power as Vice President of the United States. And isn't it funny how Marjorie was right? Well, we already knew. You all knew. You're so smart, you knew. We all knew about Hunter Biden's laptop, even though the New York Times tried to suppress it. And all 51 intelligence professionals and, they told everyone on the news, oh, there's nothing, that's not Hunter Biden's laptop. Well, trust us, we're from the intelligence community. Okay.
Thank you.
So we knew, and we knew he had corrupt business dealings in Ukraine. We knew he had corrupt business dealings in China. And we knew that that money was going in his daddy's pocket, which is a problem. If you are holding a powerful position like vice president, like Joe Biden was with Obama, and now president of the United States, that makes him compromised with his son Hunter Biden and the horrendous things that are on that laptop. Things that are unspeakable. That's why I introduced those articles of impeachment. Well, I think I upset a lady named Nancy Pelosi. Yeah, I was fine with it. And they kicked me off committees. Well, that happened like 2 weeks after I introduced articles of impeachment. I don't think it was comments on Facebook. They said, she's gonna be a problem. Okay, well here's what happened. So, when I wasn't wasting time on committees anymore, because committees have been a waste of time for Republicans ever since Nancy Pelosi has become Speaker of the House and Democrats are controlling it. And here, I'll give you an example. If Republicans were getting things done on committees, do you think you would be witnessing and living through all the hell that we're going through right now? No. Republicans, we are not getting anything done on committees. So I went and I sat on the House floor because I was a brand new member of Congress. And I'd never been in government before, never been in politics. And so I was like, okay, how does this work? Well, they were debating a bill back and forth. And they debated the bill, and then the person up in the speaker's chair, it wasn't Nancy Pelosi, it was a man, but we were not allowed to recognize man or woman, or mother, father, sister, brother, aunt, uncle, daughter, son. Those things don't exist anymore, because Nancy took them out in the rules of Congress on January 3rd, 2021. So, Speaker Mask Face, that's what I'll call them, because I still don't know who it was, and it was a person with a mask on, called the bill to a vote. And I'm like, okay. And the Democrats on their side, they all say, yay! They're yelling, yes, yay, for the vote. Then the Republicans on our side all say, nay, nay, and they didn't have a lot of enthusiasm because at this point they were used to getting beaten into the ground on every vote. And then Speaker Maskface goes and announced that the bill had passed. Yeah, and I was really confused because there was like 5 Democrats over there and we had 5 Republicans on this side and nobody voted, they just said it. They said their vote. 10 of them. We have 435 members of Congress, ladies and gentlemen. 435 members of Congress. We all have something called a voting card, voter ID. Yes, amazing, right? Even the Democrats in Congress have voter ID. It has our picture and our name, and they're kind of like a credit card. Think about it like that. When we vote, or how we're supposed to vote, is we put it in the little slot, and it's like a credit card slot. You put it in there, and then you push a button. It's an electronic recording. There is the green yes button. I don't hardly ever push that one. There is the most beautiful red button. That's for no. I love that one. And then there is the orange or yellow, it's kind of weird color, that's present, and I don't even know why that's there. So there's those 3 buttons, and that is how we're supposed to vote. And I said, I'm holding my card, my voting card, and I called over the Republican floor staff and I said, what just happened? And he said, well, they just passed the bill, ma'am. I said, that was $7 million. That was $7 million, and we didn't vote. And he goes, oh yes, ma'am, that was a voice vote. I said, what do you mean a voice vote? He said, well, a voice vote is when you say your vote and the person in the speaker's chair determines by listening which side wins, by who is louder. And I said, well, how often does this happen? He said, oh, well, most bills are passed by voice vote. Now do you know why we're $30 trillion in debt? Yeah. Okay. So then I said, okay, we gotta change this. So I went and learned a few new tricks because I wasn't wasting time on committees. And I learned very important things like floor procedure. It's really easy for me to learn. So I came back and I had a cute little book that my legislative director had made for me. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna sit in here and watch this again. They're debating the bill back and forth. Speaker Massface calls for the vote. The Democrats, they're over there like, I mean, it's like party town. They're like, yeah, passing these bills, and Republicans are over here, you know, like, nay, because they just lose every time. And right as the Speaker Massface is about to announce that the bill is passed, I used a procedure. I rose to the microphone and I said, Madam Speaker, I asked for the recorded votes. Well, let me tell you what happened. Number one, it was a man. But it didn't matter because they don't care about gender, so I can call him Madam. Number two, he was like, what do we do now? So he looks at the parliamentarian who's looking at me, and he looks at him, and he hands him a piece of paper, and then he's like, okay. So he had to call for every member of Congress to stop what they were doing right then and there and come to the House chamber with their voting card and vote on record. I bet you guys hear that Marjorie Taylor Greene is not effective in Congress because she doesn't have committees. Let me tell you how effective I really have been. So once I learned that new little trick, I said, oh, I have a committee. It's this one. And it's when Congress is in session and they're debating bills, that's called the Committee of the Whole. And I was like, okay, my committee is the Committee of the Whole, and I am the chairwoman. And I do it for you. Here's why I do it. I fully believe that every single one of you, and even if you don't live in Georgia, no matter where you live in the country, I believe you deserve to see how every single member of Congress votes. You deserve a record. You deserve our job performance. You want to know why? Your taxpayers pay our salaries. You are the voters. You hire us. You deserve to see it on record. Number two, I cannot believe they spend millions and billions and trillions of dollars simply by saying yes or no, and somebody gets to sit up there, and it's always the majority party. They always give it to their own party. That's ridiculous. It's absurd. It's a joke. It's embarrassing that our country has actually been functioning this way. Okay, so here's what I did. I dedicated a lot of time on the House floor. I sat there, and every time they brought it up, I rose to the microphone and said, Madam Speaker, I ask for the recorded votes. Well, let me tell you, they didn't like that very much. First, the Democrats were annoyed. They were really annoyed with me because they had a schedule. And they were getting through, I mean, it was insane. They were getting through approximately 30 bills a week. They were flying through. Y'all's money was burning like you have no idea. Just flying through. Well, guess what happened? By calling for the recorded vote, it caused some problems. Here's why. Nancy, because of COVID-19, she had all these silly rules in place. And so voting was taking 45 minutes to over an hour to an hour and a half per bill. When I was asking for recorded votes, everybody had to stop what they're doing. Nancy actually had to leave her hair appointment or her Botox appointment. I mean, we had to wait, somebody had to wake up Jerry Nadler and tell him to waddle on down to the House chamber. Somebody had to find AOC because she's never around. They were like, girl, you got a proxy or wherever you are, actually come in and vote. And Republicans had to get up and leave what they were doing too, which was probably calling you all for money. That happens a lot. Okay, anyway, so everybody had to stop what they're doing, actually come and walk down and vote. Well, you know, at first everyone was joking, saying, oh, you should have never kicked her off committees, like she's bored. I was like, no, I'm dedicated and I have a job. And so So you're gonna love this. So the Democrats were upset first because it was messing up the schedule and it was slowing everything down. And it was really annoying because they couldn't get through as many bills as they were getting through. But then the Republicans got mad at me. Yeah, that was the one that I was like, what? Are you kidding me? So Republicans got mad at me, and here's why. And I got told in very harsh terms and words and tones by them directly to my face. Yeah. Marjorie, we don't want to be on record. Yeah. Republicans said that. People don't want to be on record. So, what I want to tell you is, there's been a lot of things passed, and you know it, because you've watched it happen for decades, that Republicans have voted for because they didn't have to actually vote. It slid through by voice vote. Now, here's what's happened. I spent weeks by myself doing it. Oh, and I took a lot of heat. Oh my gosh, I mean, there's articles about it. I got chewed out. I got everything. I mean, they were so mad at me. But after weeks and weeks and weeks, and I say dedicated, people started to notice this is working. And the Freedom Caucus was the first group. I'm a member of the Freedom Caucus. So the Freedom Caucus took a vote, and they said, we like what Marjorie's doing. She is putting sand in the gears. And one week was a big one when it took off. We were like supposed to have 33 bills be voted on that week, but they brought it down to less than 10 because I declared on Friday when I come back, I'm roll calling every single bill. That's when Freedom Caucus said, okay, we're getting in on this. And so we have had a floor schedule the entire time since then of all of us sitting on the House floor. We take turns, and we've asked it for recorded votes. We're over 500 bills on record now that you can look up. And guess what else? We've stopped Democrat bills. We stopped Cori Bush's bill that was going to put felons in prison. It was going to allow them to vote from jail. Yep, I stopped that one personally. So this is why, these are the important things that work. See, Congress needs to be held accountable. So I entered a bill 2 weeks ago, the Congressional Accountability Act, and this will force Congress to vote in person, on record, on every single bill, and in proxy voting. I want to remind you of one more thing. Here's what I want you all to know about me. I'm a Christian. I am unapologetic about my faith. And I'm unapologetic about the stands that I take. And I have been very outspoken on the Democrats' agenda to destroy God's creation, which is two genders, male and female. God created us male and female. In His image, He created us. And I have taken a hard stand on that foundation of truth declared in Genesis since I've been in Congress. And I'm attacked relentlessly for it. But here's something else I want you to know. The left, the immoral, disgusting, evil left is attacking our children. They are child predators. And I'm not kidding you. Look at what is happening in Disney right now. Disney wants to completely take your children, and they want to indoctrinate them into sexual, immoral filth. And this cannot be allowed. And I will stand up and speak out against it. Here's something very important. No one's identity should be what they do sexually. That's not our identities, and that should never be taught that way. It's not about judging someone for what they do. It's not about judging them for their choices. It's not about judging them for how they dress. It's about removing those identity politics out and judging people on their character. And so when the left, when the radical evil left wants to indoctrinate our children through Disney, through education with CRT, through disgusting and filthy sex education, and through horrible ideas and principles that they want to train a child to change their gender, and then they want to make it possible with pediatric gender clinics all over the country. It's something that is our responsibility and every single Christian in this country's responsibility to stand up and say, no, this is the line in the sand. We will not allow it anymore. That we have to be silent, and we've been silent too long. And this is why this is so important for me to finish on this, and this is why it's so important. Women and children are under attack in America today. It's predatorial. This week in DC, there were 5 aborted babies handed over to authorities. These were 3rd trimester babies. And they were likely aborted through partial birth abortion. You see, abortion is the worst thing in our country. It is genocide. It is a real genocide. So when I say children are under attack and they're predators, it's true. Abortion is killing the innocent unborn and sometimes the born every single day in our country. And now with the evil ideology of this gender nonsense, of this sexual immorality, and of President Joe Biden talking about Trans Visibility Day. This has gone on too far. They want to replace women. We have a Supreme Court justice, right? Or she's not a justice yet. She wants to be one. And she's likely going to be one, who is a woman and a mother of 2 daughters that refused to answer the question, what is a woman? Because she said she's not a biologist. I'm going to tell you right now, what is a woman? This is an easy answer. We're a creation of God. We came from Adam's rib. God created us with his hands. We may be the weaker sex, we are the weaker sex, but we are our partner, our husband's wife. We are mothers. We are mothers, whether we gave birth to our children or we adopted them. We are grandmothers. We are aunts. We are sisters. That's what a woman is. And when we have a woman that's supposed to be a Supreme Court justice or a nominee, and she can't answer that question as a mother herself, then that woman is not qualified. She is not qualified. Women's sports. Why is this happening? Why are men allowed to say, oh, I'm a woman, and allowed to compete? This is wrong. Why are biological men and boys allowed to go in girls' bathrooms, camps, cabins, dorm rooms, places of privacy? This is wrong. And we got here to this place, everyone, in what, 14 months and less? Here's what I want to finish with. Things are different than when I ran for Congress the first time. Let me tell you my mindset this time. I am unapologetic. I will not apologize for wanting to fight for what is morally right and what is good for our country. And what is good for our country is upholding our Constitution and our laws and standing up against the evil left's radical agenda and predatory behavior against our children. And I encourage every single one of you, look, it's not mean and hateful to say, I do not agree with that. That is wrong, it has to be stopped. That's not mean and hateful. That is exactly what we should be doing. And it is correct for American citizens to say, this tax money that I pay, you better put it to good use. And they're not doing it. They're not doing it. So here's what I urge you. Here's what I urge you to do. Hold people like me accountable. Anyone that is elected, hold us accountable. It's your job to do it. You are the customer. We work for you, which means you have to call us. You have to email us. You have to come meet with us. And guess what? DC's open. Yep, you can come back. And I want to see you there. So thank you so much, everyone. I appreciate your support.